You have a vision of a life you could be living. It's not a fantasy. You can see it with perfect clarity. The business you know you should start. The book you promised yourself you would write. The person you could become. It's a future so real you can almost taste it. But when the moment comes to take the first step, nothing happens. The clarity clouds over, the energy vanishes, and a familiar voice inside tells you, not yet. It tells you you're not ready. It tells you the plan isn't perfect. And the dream that once burned like a star begins to fade. A quiet, distant reminder of a life you are not living. If you have ever felt like an invisible force is holding you back, you are not imagining it. You are not lazy, and you are not broken. You are human. In this video, we will decode the psychology of inaction. We will uncover how your brain's ancient, deep-seated fear is keeping you from the very life you want most. This isn't motivation. This is the user manual for the part of your mind that is secretly terrified of your own potential. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Before we go deeper, you must understand one thing. This pattern of dreaming big but doing nothing is not a character flaw. It is a fundamental piece of your programming. The problem isn't a lack of desire. It's a conflict in your wiring. Part of your brain is an ancient survival machine. Its only job is to keep you safe. And to this ancient system, your big, ambitious dream doesn't register as an opportunity. It registers as a threat. A massive, uncertain threat filled with the possibility of failure, judgment, and shame. So your brain does what it was designed to do. It protects you. It deploys a sophisticated arsenal of psychological defenses to keep you safely inside your comfort zone, even if that comfort zone is making you miserable. This is the great paradox. The very system meant to ensure your survival is the same one that sabotages your growth. This conflict doesn't show up as a rational choice. It shows up as procrastination, as endless research, as self-doubt. These aren't the real reasons you are stuck. They are the clues. They are the symptoms of a much deeper psychological war. To break free, you have to stop fighting the symptoms and start understanding the cause. You have to stop blaming yourself and start recognizing the traps your own mind is setting for you. So let's pull back the curtain. Let's expose the 5 hidden psychological traps that keep your dreams locked away in your mind. The first and most powerful trap is the fear of failure. But it's deeper than you think. Most of us aren't just afraid of failing, we're afraid of what failure will mean about us. In its most extreme clinical form, this is known as atychiphobia, an irrational fear of failing that leads to avoiding any situation where it's a possible outcome. Here is where it gets deep. For many, self-worth is tied directly to achievement. We operate under a silent, dangerous equation. Success equals I am worthy. Failure equals I am worthless. When your identity is fused with your performance, every goal is a test of your fundamental value as a person. Writing a book is no longer about sharing a story. It's about proving you are brilliant. Starting a business is no longer about creating value. It's about proving you are a success. When the stakes are this high, your brain's threat system goes into overdrive. It calculates the emotional devastation of failure, the shame, the humiliation, the self-criticism. Many psychologists believe the fear of failure is, at its core, a fear of shame. Shame is toxic. It doesn't make you feel bad about your actions, it makes you feel bad about who you are. And so, to protect you from this identity-level crisis, your brain makes a seemingly logical choice. If you never try, you can never fail. As long as the dream remains an untested idea, it can stay perfect. And so can your self-image. Inaction becomes a form of self-preservation. You're not avoiding the work, you're avoiding the verdict. This leads directly to the second trap, perfectionism. But perfectionism is not about having high standards, it is a shield. It is a defense mechanism rooted in the fear of judgment. Psychological research reveals something crucial. Having high standards doesn't cause procrastination. The real culprit is what researchers call perfectionistic concerns. The obsessive worry about making mistakes, the fear of negative evaluation, the dread of not being good enough. This is the perfectionist's paradox. The desire to create a flawless outcome leads to no outcome at all. You tell yourself you can't start until you have the perfect camera, the perfect plan, the perfect moment. But this isn't a commitment to quality. It is a sophisticated form of avoidance. You're waiting for a moment when success is 100% guaranteed. And because that moment will never arrive, you give yourself a permanent, justifiable reason to never start. Procrastination becomes the behavior, but perfectionism is the alibi. It feels responsible to say, "I'm just waiting to do it right." But in reality, it's just fear wearing a tuxedo. We all know this one, but we need to reframe what it really is. Procrastination is not a time management problem. It is primarily an emotional regulation problem. When you face a task that triggers negative feelings, anxiety, self-doubt, boredom, your brain's emotional core, the limbic system, hijacks your rational mind. It screams, "Discomfort ahead!" and seeks immediate relief. And the fastest way to relieve the anxiety of a difficult task is to not do it. Instead, you turn to what's known as a mood repair activity. You suddenly feel an urge to clean, to check your phone, to watch one more video. These actions provide a short-term reward that temporarily soothes the anxiety. The procrastination itself becomes the reward. This creates a vicious cycle. You avoid the task, which reduces anxiety now. This relief reinforces the act of procrastination. But in the long term, this avoidance amplifies the guilt and self-doubt, which makes the original task seem even more daunting the next time you face it. You are hitting the snooze button on your life. It feels good for a moment, but it doesn't stop the morning from coming. It only makes the eventual rush more stressful. Procrastination is your brain choosing the short-term comfort of avoidance over the long-term fulfillment of your goals. This trap is more subtle, but incredibly powerful. Chasing a dream isn't just about doing something new, it's about becoming someone new. And that identity shift can be terrifying. We all have a story we tell ourselves about who we are. I'm a stable person. I'm an introvert. I'm not a risk taker. This self-concept provides a sense of safety. Your dream, however, requires you to challenge this identity. To become an entrepreneur, you have to let go of the stable employee identity. To become an artist, you have to embrace an identity that society may not see as secure. This transition forces you into a state of identity conflict. Your old self and your potential new self are at war. This is a deep form of psychological risk. Starting a business doesn't just risk money, it risks your identity as a responsible person. Sharing your ideas doesn't just risk criticism, it risks your identity as a quiet person. Many dreams are abandoned not because the effort is too great, but because the identity risk is too high. It is often easier to cling to a familiar identity, even one that leaves you unfulfilled, than to step into the terrifying ambiguity of becoming someone new. You're not just chasing a dream, you're shedding a skin. And that process can feel incredibly threatening. Finally, we arrive at the fifth trap, your brain's profound aversion to uncertainty. Our brains are prediction machines. They crave certainty to conserve energy and ensure survival. An unknown outcome is psychologically expensive. Your current life, no matter how unsatisfying, is a known quantity. Your dream, on the other hand, is the ultimate unknown. Will it work? Will you be good enough? What will people think? Your brain codes this massive uncertainty as a threat. Faced with a choice between a predictable present and a potentially amazing but utterly unpredictable future, your brain's safety programming will almost always default to what it knows. This is the well-studied preference for the status quo. We are wired to prioritize familiar misery over uncertain bliss. This is why so many people get stuck in the research phase forever. Endless planning feels productive, but it is often a subconscious attempt to eliminate all uncertainty. You are trying to create a perfect, risk-free map for a territory that has yet to be explored. But the map is not the territory. At some point, you have to put the map down and take a step into the wild. Now that we have dissected these 5 traps, you might feel the weight of them. You might recognize yourself in the fear of the verdict, the prison of perfectionism, the cycle of procrastination, the threat of a new identity, or the paralysis of the unknown. And that is a good thing, because you cannot solve a problem you do not understand. But understanding is only half the battle. To see the trap is not to escape it. The other half is taking action. If you are serious about not just understanding these patterns, but breaking them, stay with me. Because what comes next is how you fight back. So, we are up against ancient psychological hardware. How do we overcome it? The answer is not to just do it or to find some magical burst of motivation. The answer is to use psychology to outsmart your own brain. Here are 4 practical strategies to break the cycle of inaction. Your brain's fear response is triggered by the perceived size of a threat. The bigger the dream, the bigger the fear. The solution? Stop trying to chase the dream. Focus on the smallest possible action. Don't write a book. Open a document and write 1 sentence. Don't start a business. Draft 1 email to a potential mentor. This makes the task so small that it flies under your brain's threat detection radar. The fear of writing 1 sentence is almost zero, so the urge to procrastinate is not triggered. Completing that tiny action then gives you a feeling of efficacy, which builds momentum and begins to retrain your brain to associate action with reward, not fear. Another tool is to define your fear. Instead of visualizing success, visualize failure in detail. What is the absolute worst-case scenario? Write it down. Then, for each point, write down what you could do to prevent it and what you would do to repair the damage. You will realize that the worst-case scenario is not the vague, undefined monster in your head. This process transforms paralyzing fear into a set of manageable risks. This is the deeper internal work. As long as your self-worth is on the line, you will always live in fear. You must consciously separate who you are from what you do. Failure is an event, not a person. A failed project does not make you a failure. The most effective tool here is self-compassion. Research shows that people who practice self-compassion after a failure are more likely to learn and try again. Self-criticism just doubles down on the shame, making you less likely to try again. Treat yourself with the same understanding you would offer a good friend. You would not tell your friend, "You're a worthless idiot." You would say, "That's tough. What did you learn? What can we try next?" Talk to yourself the same way. Reframe failure not as a verdict on your worth, but as data. Every failed attempt is simply a data point that tells you what doesn't work. It is information, not an indictment. Adopting this mindset transforms failure from something to be feared into a necessary part of the process. One of the biggest lies your fearful brain tells you is that you need to feel confident before you can act. This is backward. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. It is a result of action. You don't think your way into confidence. You act your way into it. You must expose yourself to the thing you fear in small, manageable doses. Try something where the outcome does not matter. The goal is not to succeed, but to fail, and to prove to your nervous system that you will survive. Every time you take a small risk and survive, whether you succeed or fail, you are providing your brain with concrete evidence that action is not fatal. You are building a library of experiences that proves you can handle discomfort and imperfection. Over time, your brain recalibrates its threat assessment. It learns that the monster isn't real. But it will only learn that by you opening the door again and again, especially when you don't feel ready. You do not have to do this alone. Our brains are social organs. Our perception of risk is heavily influenced by our environment. Actively seek out people who support your ambitions, not people who echo your fears. A supportive network acts as an external buffer against the emotional cost of risk. Sharing your goals with trusted friends or mentors creates positive social accountability. It makes the dream feel more real. When you see others navigating the same uncertainties and surviving the same setbacks, it normalizes the experience. It proves your struggles are not unique, which diminishes the shame and isolation. This support system becomes a psychological safety net. Knowing there are people to understand if you fall gives you the courage to walk the tightrope. That image in your head of the person you want to be, of the life you want to live, is not a fantasy. It is a possibility. But the path to that possibility is paved with small, imperfect, and often terrifying steps. For years, you may have been standing at the edge, frozen by invisible forces you couldn't name. But now you can name them. You know about the fear that ties your worth to your work, the perfectionism that provides a noble excuse for inaction, the procrastination that offers short-term relief for long-term regret, the fear of a new identity, and the brain's deep aversion to the unknown. These are not your personal failings. They are the ancient programming of a brain trying to keep you safe. But safety and fulfillment are not the same thing. The choice has always been yours. The comfortable pain of regret is a predictable path. The uncomfortable growth of chasing a dream is an uncertain one. But remember this: dreams don't change your life. Daily actions do. Your future is not determined by one heroic leap, but by the 1,000 small, courageous steps you take starting today. 5 years from now, you will either be living a version of your dream, or you will be living with the heavy regret of never truly chasing it. The difference between those two realities is a single, tiny, imperfect step. Take it now. If this video helped you see the forces holding you back, subscribe. We explore the hidden architecture of the mind every week, and I would love for you to be a part of this community.